Back. Okay, that makes me feel very happy. Okay, I'm sorry, folks. So, as National Employer of the Be On Air Network of Media Schools, it's really my joy to have you joining us here today and to have some discussions about preparing for interviews and networking events and really getting to know some great trade secrets to make you very successful as you head out on whatever your journey is, whether it's for employment or networking. As we get started here, we've got Tony as our moderator. Tony is an instructor at Illinois Media School. He's also an on-air personality and really does so much in the industry, both in TV and on air, to not only prepare our students to be exceptional at what they do, but also build his own brand. Our special guest tonight is Susan Prosser, and Susan brings to us 20 years of experience. She's worked on many projects with major TV networks and radio stations and projects for clients, athletes, just a whole long list. And she's really done a lot to help them prepare their professional appearance and their brand so that they can grow in the industry. I'm so excited that I had a chance to meet Susan as our discussion unfolded. I thought, what a great guest to bring to the forum, because we're always wondering how to best prepare for those opportunities, how to build our brand, how to be successful out there when we're meeting people for the first time, and most importantly, how to do that on a budget. Because sometimes as you're just getting started, you don't have all the tools, or you don't think you have all the tools to be successful. But Susan's here to show you some great pathways, and Tony's going to lead you on a great discussion. So without further ado, Tony, welcome. We're happy to have you. Susan, welcome here. And to all our guests, enjoy yourselves, and please feel free to use the chat for any questions that might come up. Thank you. There you go, Tony. It's yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda. Make sure I was on there. Welcome everyone to the forum, and we have our guest today, Susan Prosser. Linda, with a great introduction for Susan. Susan, grateful for you being here today, and I can't wait. This hour's going to go by really fast, so I hope you enjoy it.
I'm sure I will. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. And so, we in the broadcast industry, this media world, it's not your traditional field, right? We know that when myself as an instructor on campus, I always tell my students on day one in regards to this field that it's understandable that you're here and this is not a normal thing to do.
Right.
And so, Susan, I want to ask you first, as we get into the conversation, why did you choose this industry?
It's funny. I think it really chose me because I got into it, and I'll keep a very, very long story short, try to keep it as short as possible. But it was about over 20 years ago now. And I really got into this industry I wanted to help cancer patients and burn victims. So I just happened to have this makeup book, and this makeup artist had written it, and it really moved me, really touched my heart, and I thought, I want to do that too. I could do that too. So after a lot of prayer and a lot of courage, I took the jump and I got into it. And then I ended up in production. But to your point, I had no idea what to expect because I never thought I would be in production. But it honestly, like you said, it's a tough industry, but it's fulfilling. And I can't, now all these years later, I can't even believe I'm still in it. But I can't even imagine not being in this industry. So you're dead on, though. That was dead on what you said. So
absolutely. Let's talk about your journey. Obviously, been in the field for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Where'd you get your start, and then how has it progressed from there?
Well, way back when I first started, the reason I had that makeup book was because I had worked for a modeling agency, just as in a different capacity, not as a makeup artist, but I was working at a corporate job. I was very unhappy. I was just doing this, I had a part-time job through this modeling, this talent agency. And I was just kind of at a crossroads in my life. And I just thought, what do I do with the rest of my life? So I just said, God, what am I even here for? I want to do something that matters. And so, like I said, my heart just got really touched by these stories. And so I just thought, okay, maybe there's something to this. And then this was way before iPhones and smartphones. So I had to cold call people, the talent agency I was working for let me come do their makeup. I just started studying, all this, and that's how I got started. So it was a very, long, long story, but that's how I got started. And then I met a fella that he was leaving his job as a producer at a local production house in Cleveland. And I just happened to call him out of the blue on the phone. I had his name on a yellowpages.com list that I printed out. And he said, hey, I'm maybe getting into photography. Do you want to come, we can get a model. I'll give you the photos. And he ended up being a film producer. So, but he and I became friends. I became friends with his whole family, and we're still friends to this day. And he gave me my start in film. And that's where I stayed for probably a good 12, 15 years almost, in just doing movies. And then when I wasn't working on films, I'd be doing commercials, because it's word of mouth, as you know. So I would meet people on a film set, and they would give my name to so-and-so, and then that person would call me, and I would do commercials or whatever in between movies and some print work and things like that. So that's really how I got started. It sounds like a very short story, but it wasn't. It was very long. A lot of blood, sweat, tears, and a lot of prayer, but but that's how I got into it. So.
Yeah, I'm sure you meet a lot of people, obviously, with doing the photography portion of it, and then of course
Yes.
casting and everything. What's been the most interesting story for you coming across people coming through for rehearsals or just for casting purposes? Anything that comes to mind right off the bat that changed your experience doing this?
Oh gosh, there's so many I could share. But probably just for me, just seeing people when they're starting out their career as actors, even local actors. I live near Cleveland. And so just seeing the local actors that I knew as kids,
Mhm.
and then now they're in LA and you see them on shows, or they stayed in Cleveland, but now they have, families, and just to watch them grow as people. But just I think that's the thing that I really have seen, like, impactful things. So you just see the growth of other people, and just to think, you kind of shared in their story along the way. I think that's for me, that's very fulfilling, just to kind of be part of their story, because I know they're part of mine. So.
Yeah. In this 2024, well, really, I guess, when social media started, the word
Yeah.
branding has been huge. That word is
Yes.
it is the number one thing that you
Number
have to
one.
do in the
Yeah.
industry. It doesn't matter what genre, right? Sports,
Right.
entertainment,
Right.
or news. How important is branding, Susan, in this industry now in 2024?
I think branding is important in any industry. And I think but especially in the media, I feel like if you're going into media, if you're a talent on the other side of the camera, that's, to a different level of branding. But because you have this whole team behind you that's literally telling you how to walk and how to stand for pictures and all these things. I've seen it firsthand. So, but but I think branding too, and that's a really good point. And I was thinking about earlier today when I was, looking over my notes, all of us, we have a personal brand, regardless of whether you're in the media industry or whether you're getting a job, wherever you're applying for a job. It's a personal brand. And that's what got me into doing workshops, as well as just, doing media styling. I really wanted to help other people, because just when you present yourself and how you present yourself, you're packaging yourself, you're marketing yourself, right? So if you were going to say you were going to sell an item on Etsy or in the grocery store or at a brick and mortar of any kind or on Amazon, you would have to market that item. You would have to market it, and marketing would entail how you talk about it, how you package it, the colors that you use. And to your point again, it's branding is all of that.
Yeah.
I've taken classes just, at the library for free, or through what we can here in Ohio, we have something called SCORE. And you can get these free classes. And one of the classes I took, this lady was saying, even down to the color scheme that you use in your logo, to the pens that you buy with your name on it, it's all goes back to branding. So it's very meticulous, but that's how I feel about personal branding. It's the same thing. It's how you present yourself. How do you package yourself? How do you talk about yourself? Those are things that you really have to think when you go for a job interview or a networking event, it's all building and keeping that personal brand.
And you led me to my next question here, and we're kind of with branding. With social media being that
Yeah.
X factor, right? It's the
Right.
one. It's the platform that can get your information out, your brand, whatever that looks like. How important it is for anyone trying to be casted or trying to get a position in the industry. How important is their social media uh, product history in with this type of atmosphere, right? What should you be doing with your social media if you're looking to get into this industry? Because
Right.
people go back and they go, look.
That's right. That's exactly right. And a couple of things came to my mind when you were talking. I think in this industry, it's really no different than any other industry. So be careful what you're posting. But I do work a lot with talent. So if you're looking to be an actor, it's the same. Like you'd want to post. I work a lot with different talent. Now I do mostly do commercials now, so I really don't do a lot of film right now. But I noticed the talent that I work with, they'll take photos of themselves on set, or they'll ask me, could you take a photo of me by the camera? Things like that. And so they'll post that, but it's all part of their brand. Like they're working. They want to show that they're working. They want to show they have experience. So that's part of building that brand, snapping those photos. And to your point again, social media is, like it or not, and most of us don't like it. Even if we're on it all the time, you really don't love it sometimes. You think, ugh, but it's a necessary evil, if you will. A lot of times. So it is, but I would caution people, even if you're not talent, so to speak, you're not going to be on the opposite side of the camera. You want to be careful what you're posting. So I'll give you an example. Years and years ago, I had a friend who had a college age daughter, and she would go out and party a lot and do the things that you do in college, whatever, but she was posting all of it on her social media. And she was studying to be in the medical field.
Oh man.
So I think, I never said anything because I thought, it's not my place, but I noticed after she graduated, everything was private. Her Instagram went private, her Facebook went private, so someone got a hold of her and said, hey, so I would say to anybody, industry, whatever industry you find yourself in, media or otherwise, or whatever job you're looking for in the media industry, just be aware of what you're posting, because even though I think sometimes people can think, oh, I'm going to go work on a movie set, or I'm going to do this, and it doesn't matter, because it does. And there's people, it's a business, and that's how you have to always view whatever position you're going for. I don't care how laid back you think that industry might be, it's still a business, and there's investors involved. It's a business, and it's run like any other business. So it may be a little more relaxed when you get on set. You'll see, people wearing, shorts and that, if you're going to be crew on set. But to get those jobs, you really want to be aware that it's a business, and the people that you might be talking to get hired on that project. And especially if you work for a media company, that's more of a corporate atmosphere sometimes. So no matter what, though, it's run as a business, and that's how you always have to regard whatever job you're applying for. Treat it as a business. And make sure that whatever you're posting, whatever you're doing, whatever they can look up, you want to make sure that, it's not going to make you look down at your hands embarrassed.
Yeah, very true. We're talking to Susan Prosser, over 20 years of TV and film experience and being in the industry. He's worked at Fox, CBS, NBC, PBS, Hallmark, I see here as well, Lifetime. Just a resume that's amazing. Susan, this industry, this film industry itself, a lot of questions are always asked, even myself,
Yeah.
What do I wear to an interview? How
Right.
do I represent myself?
Right.
The expert, tell us exactly what you should expect going into an interview in regards to attire and presentation.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So I would say, when you're preparing for an interview, and again, if you're going to an interview on a film, to be on a film, a local film, or if you're joining a production company that you want to work for as an editor, or whatever you're going into. So regardless, I would say, you want to dress for the part. So, if you were a lawyer, you wanted to be a lawyer or an accountant or something, I would assume you'd have to wear a suit and tie to that, right? Formal. But if you're going to, what I just described, like a media company or whatever, or even a normal corporate job, nowadays you can go on their website or LinkedIn and you can see company photos of, say, a company conference or something, and you can see how they dress. Okay, this company has this kind of culture. If you see them all in suits and ties, then you think, okay, maybe I'll wear a suit and tie too. But at the very least, I would say business casual, and it doesn't have to cost $1 million. You can go to thrift stores, you can go to Goodwill, you can borrow clothes from your friends, your family, but I would say business casual, dress pants, dress shoes, meaning just no sneakers, no open-toed sandals, no slides. You want to make sure that you have closed-toed dress shoes, a shirt. If you wear a shirt that's tucked in, you'd want to wear a belt. If you want to wear a suit and tie, that's fine. That's great. Whatever you want to do, but just make sure that it's not something that, you would wear to a family barbecue or, something like that. You want to make sure that it's at the very least business casual. Like I said, a button down shirt, polo shirt tucked in with a belt, dress pants, ladies, skirt, if you wanted to wear a skirt and a blouse, something that's a business appropriate.
Yeah. And so you're saying you could do this on a budget. Is that right?
You can do it on a budget. Yes, I have, because I've done it myself. And I've been a freelancer for those 20 some years. So believe me, I know all about broke. I know all about budget. But I remember even, years ago when I was working at an office as a corporation, not far from me now. And I remember my friend, one of my best friends, she had some clothes that she didn't need anymore. So she gave them to me, and that's what I wore to my interview. And I got that job because of a suit that she gave me. That's what the hiring manager told me. He's like, "You're the only one that even wore a suit." I've never forgotten that, Yeah. And I thought I wasn't even trying to impress him. I just used it because she gave me this suit, and I was like, okay, this looks good. But yes, you can go to thrift stores, you can go to Goodwill, you can find some really nice things at secondhand consignment stores. I'm big on borrowing clothes from people. You just return them, as long as they're clean, and you want to steam them or iron them, just make sure they're as wrinkle free as possible and clean. I think you can do it on a dime.
Absolutely. We are going to, by the way, allow some questions here in a
Oh,
Q&A
great. Yeah.
bit. And just a bit here. So Calvin, we do see there's a question that you popped in there. We'll get to you in just 1 second here when we get to that Q&A section. So please hang tight as we continue talking here to Susan. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Throw the questions in the comment section. I know Linda's going to pop them in for us as we go through the forum here. Not everything is beautiful. Not everything is amazing, right? There are failures. Right. There are road bumps. What have been some road bumps you've seen, or maybe your own personal road bumps that you've run into in regards to this industry, from casting to just being on set, shows, or the business side? Anything that really stood out to you that changed your perspective on this industry?
Yes, because that's such a great question. I would say I had no expectation. I had no expectation of going to production, so I didn't really know what to expect. And I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I don't know if that I would have continued. It was because it's long days, really grueling long days. There's really nothing glamorous about working in the film industry. It's a rewarding industry, but any production, the days are just as long as they're going to take. So you're not going to work a 5-hour shift. You're not going to work an 8-hour shift. So that was tough. And then just and I can only share, I'll share some of the, and I think I speak for a lot of us, a lot of my friends and a lot of folks that I met along the way, regardless of what role they play in the media, in media production, be it talent, be it, anyone else on the crew side. I think all of us could say the same thing. You really have to hang in there, because it'll test everything you think you've got. You have to learn to be really tenacious. If I could go back and tell my younger self, because I just, when I was starting out, we had that first recession that hit, and I thought I was going to lose everything, because I was really I quit my real job to do this. And then that recession hit, nobody was hiring me. And so I had to go back to temping, and I was working an office job. And I just thought, what have I done? I've ruined my life, and I thought, I'm just going to sell my makeup case or whatever I've got. I'm just going to forget it and go get a real job and be a grown up, And I remember my mom saying, don't do that yet. Just don't do that. Give it one more day, because you never know when that phone's going to ring and change. But you really can get down. And I remember a friend of mine told me, he said, Sue, in this industry, the lows are really low, but the highs are really high. So if you can hang on through the lows, it'll be worth it. And I'm still here, I'm still here, and I thank God still have a roof over my head. So, but that's what I would say. It's, just learn to be tenacious and set your mind to it, that it's not all gonna be, roses and glam. It's not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're somebody, just getting to know you now. You seem like you love what you do, and I think that's a really important aspect in being in this industry, right? Loving what you do is a whole nother level of being able to perform your job, and so
Right.
I'm sure that is a huge factor in what you have gone through as well. You know, Susan, I have a lot of friends personally who are actors, who are in the industry and so forth, but a lot of them got their start being extras. Is that a
Right.
good route to start? Is that something you see common when
I
the
do.
actors?
Yeah, I do see that a lot. I see that an awful lot. Like I said, I can think of one gal in particular. I met her probably 12 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. And last I heard, she started as an extra. She showed up. She was always there on time. She didn't make a spectacle of herself. She just did what people asked her to do. She didn't, it's hard to be an extra. It's hard to be a background actor. It really is.
Yeah.
And God love them. I mean, they're amazing people. But and the last I heard, she was killing it in Atlanta. She'd moved to Atlanta, and now she's on a bunch of shows. And I just talked to somebody who keeps in touch with her, and I thought, well, I'm really proud of her, because but yes, it's you can really, a lot of people do start out as background actors.
Yeah, and I mean, for here in Chicago, we have Chicago Fire, PD.
Yeah, right.
You know the shows.
Yes.
And so it's the set, the production house is always running, and it's always going.
Always. Yeah.
And it's funny seeing them in the background. I'm like, I know that person.
I know that guy. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Next thing you know, they're in a commercial.
Yeah. Yes, I know. Yeah. I've seen that too. People I've known too. It's like, oh my gosh, I know that kid. I used to give him a ride home from shoots because he took the bus, and now he's in this commercial on my TV. So
how does that make you feel? I mean, especially if you've had a part in their journey, to see them on something major like that, because maybe you've seen them from the beginning.
What? It just makes me so proud of them, because I love rooting for other people. I love rooting for people, and you want to see people do well, no matter what industry they're in. And I think too, it's because I know what it's like to hate a job that you have to go to pay your bills. And again, I'm not saying this is a cakewalk. The media industry is not, production is not a cakewalk, but I know what that's like to dread Monday morning. And so I don't want that for anybody else. Like, I'm glad to see, it just makes me happy to see someone else's dreams come true. It encourages me to hang on, and keep pursuing my own, but it just makes me proud. It makes me very proud,
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. Now, this is a question I always ask for anybody in any position in this industry, because it affected all of us, everyone, but really, I think specifically this industry a lot. That's COVID. Well, COVID, I know there was procedures set, there was standards set, and that changed in 2020. Susan, how did it change your position, your role, and just what you did in general?
Oh my gosh, and you're so right. It's not just our industry, but I think ours in particular, especially being a freelancer, it made me realize, I thought I was pretty good at managing my money. One, because I never grew up with a lot of money. So, I always had to count my pennies, but it made me realize the importance of having money in the bank and savings. And so I thought, when this is over, I'm going to do better, not be a hoarder, but just do better. And then also too, I lost a couple really good clients. So, and I speak just as a freelancer. So if you work for a corporation, I think it was different, but as a freelancer, it was really, really tough, because when COVID came out, we came out of it, and a couple of my clients just didn't come back. So because they didn't come back, then I was like, wow, so I would say if COVID taught me anything, and thank God I live I don't live far from Cleveland Clinic. So they had a lot of PSAs they were doing. And so I was still working during the beginning of the pandemic. Thank God I was still working there just to do their PSAs and their, how to stay safe and how to wear a mask, all that. So I was still working, but then it kind of just, that died out too. So I would say, yeah, it taught me to be even better with my money, be a better saver, even than I thought. And then also to not to put all your eggs in one basket. So now it really got me moving though. It got me motivated to, start a website. So I just started that last year because I think I want to get something else that's passive income. So just to have something that, doesn't depend on the phone ringing. And I just speak as a freelancer. So if you're working for a company and, if you're working for a media company, that might be a little different dynamic. You don't have to sweat that so much. But for me as a freelancer, I would say to any freelancer, have a secondary stream of income. That's the biggest lesson I learned from COVID.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the way when you say that in regards to that second income, right? Or not putting things in one basket, one platform that really has pushed out and that's in turmoil a little bit here in the US is TikTok. And
Yes.
I've seen a plethora of casting agencies on TikTok, bringing people into that platform to produce out content and so forth. How do you feel about TikTok and not that traditional, network company that we've grown up to look at? How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm not all that familiar with TikTok because I'm old, but I have nieces that are young. And so they'll tell me about it and they know about it. And just from what I know from the business side of TikTok, I think it can be lucrative from what I understand. It can be pretty lucrative and you can be your own boss. So I think you can learn to market yourself and really take off. So I don't think that's a bad thing. But again, I would watch what I'm posting because you never know, like say 10 years from now, what you think is cute now, when you're 10 years from now and you want to pivot, you don't want, anything, that's going to hurt your brand in the future. So that's the thing I would caution people about. But I think TikTok can be lucrative, just like Instagram or YouTube or whatever, and I think it's a good way from what I'm reading, it can be a good way to earn some steady income, while you're pursuing your other goals.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. We're talking to Susan Prosser again here, 20 years plus of experience working at many of the major networks that we all know. Susan, looking at this and looking at the industry and casting, I personally years ago wanted to try to be an actor.
Yeah.
And I went the route of going to a photographer. I did the whole package deal.
Yeah.
And about $300.
I know the drill. Yeah.
And you know how that goes.
Yeah, I do.
I stuck to sports broadcasting, so that wasn't my route. My question to you is, what advice would you give to someone that's going that route or that's trying to figure it out? Is that a good way to start getting those photos done first, or maybe can you do something different? How would you go about it?
I can tell you from what I hear, and like I said, I live in the Cleveland, Ohio area, so I know here locally. We live in what's called a commercial market. So I think in Chicago, it's different wherever, depending on where you live. But what I was always told and what I've heard from friends that are casting agents and people that work for, talent agencies. And we have two big ones here in Cleveland and Pittsburgh. And we have some, bigger ones in Columbus and Cincinnati too. But what I'm hearing from the people that I've interacted with over the years that I count as friends or, acquaintances, they've told me the same thing. You shouldn't pay up front for those photos because, and again, check with your local agencies, but from what I was always told, they want natural photos. So if you're, you want to go to their website and see, first of all, make sure the agency is a legit agency. So, check them out, talk to people who are already signed with them, talk to people who are already your friends that are already actors or whatever, somebody like that. Read the reviews, see what's going on, check the Better Business Bureau, make sure they're a legit agency. It shouldn't be too hard to figure that out. And then go to their website, see what their requirements are. So if they want, we just want a picture off your phone, send us that. We don't want professional headshots. Most of them don't. They want to see you natural. They don't want to see you all dolled up. They just want to see something off your iPhone or, my friend took this picture at an amusement park or whatever, selfie. Nowadays it's selfies. That's usually what they want to see.
Mhm.
They don't want to see the pro photos. Once you get signed with an agency, once you talk to an agent, they'll direct you. We work with these photographers. You can go there and get a package. We have photographers that we work with, but in my opinion, you shouldn't be paying an arm and a leg up front for anything, or, to join special, contests or whatever they've got going. You have to be really careful because there's a lot of scams out there. So you just have to kind of, use a lot of wisdom and, do your due diligence in researching that.
Well, I didn't do that.
I know, believe me, I haven't done it either in the past, and I've done it myself. And it's like, oh my gosh, I wish I had that money back that I wasted. Yeah. Believe me, I've done the same thing, but it looks to me like you ended up where you belonged. So, but it's lesson learned, right? But that's, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm giving the same advice and counsel you just gave. Like, don't do that. Just
yes.
Listen first, look at the information, and find all the resources.
No, I've done the same thing. I've made the same mistakes, believe me. So that's how I know. So
yeah. Being in this industry, Susan, I'm sure you've met many people, and we're not trying to have you name drop or anything, but what is, I guess, who's somebody, or what experience was one of the best moments in your career? What exactly did you take from that experience? Something that really impacted you that you will never forget working in this industry?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Like I said, it's so hard to pick one. But I think I worked with, and again, I don't want to name drop, but I worked with this. You probably know her if you ever watched The Big Bang Theory on CBS. Her name's Melissa Rouse. She played Bernadette.
Yes.
She was such a lovely person, and I just to be around people like that are just positive, good people. That really impacted me. It's probably one of my most cherished memories on a movie set or things like that just, and just watching people, and I'll tell you, just in general, it sounds like a Hallmark card, but just watching people, do what they love. And, it's just kind of this well-oiled machine, but working with good people, oh my gosh, it makes such a difference. And it can really be the vitamin C shot you need in your arm, because there's some people that you're going to work with that you just can't wait to get away. And you think, oh my God, I just need the money. So as long as the checks don't bounce, whatever, I can do anything for 6 weeks, whatever. That's what I used to tell myself, because there's just some people that they believe their own press, and they're awful to be around. They just like to be nasty. But and then there's people like her, and there's other actresses too I could name, and other actors that I've really enjoyed working with, and just crew that I love working with. You'll work with the same crew. And I think, like I said, there's so many instances I could name, but just in general, that's what I would say has really, kept me going. It's really been the juice that kept me going, is just good crew, good people working with, and just, stay focused on yourself and what you're doing, and, ignore the jerks, I guess. But yeah, that's what I would say. It's been my, rewarding.
Absolutely. No, I hear you. In 2024, the industry is different too. And I'll go to the film industry, right? The movie industry.
Yeah.
Movie theaters aren't that popular, right? We're now in a world of streaming. It's all on an app. It's all on your device. So I'll ask you, because you're behind the scenes working things, how has that affected your side of things in regards to just being able to meet budget for a film or for a project like that?
Well, when I came up, I started in indie films. And I still miss that. I miss doing indie films a lot, because you really had to challenge yourself. So, because you had a shoestring budget. So if you needed this, and this, there was no budget for it. You had to be creative. I mean, I remember making nail polish. I remember making red nail polish out of eyeshadow, and I think petroleum jelly, or blood or something I had to make for this. I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So, I didn't have the budget for it. So I started like, what do I make? So, but now you're right with the streaming and how it's changed me. So it's kind of a two-parter, but I noticed a huge change in the industry, especially in Cleveland, because we have the tax incentive. So if people shoot films here, they get a big refund check at the end if they use so many crew members. Well, those dynamics have changed a bit. I'm not familiar with all of the rules now, but I noticed the bigger studio films started coming here. So we got some of the Marvel movies coming, and Netflix would come because I did some films for them. Sony Pictures would come and shoot here. And so the bigger pictures, the bigger studio films, they would just bring their own teams. So they were allowed to now bring their own people from LA and New York. So they didn't have to hire us as often. So that changed, the dynamic changed. But the bigger films, they have a lot more money to throw at things. So if there's a difference there. But I noticed streaming has really changed the dynamic, because there's more, but it's also spread out through the country. So you're vying for Pittsburgh, New Mexico, wherever who's shooting, Atlanta, especially, Michigan still, Detroit's back in the game, I think. So that has changed the industry, the streaming, because there's more of it, which is a good thing, but it's just more spread out. So if you're not in the right place, hopefully you can, get on them anyway, if they're close, like Pittsburgh or something for me, but.
Yeah. Do you think, 10, 15 years from now, theaters are going to be obsolete? Is it going to go away?
I hope not, because I think there's something to, and maybe it's just because I'm older and I'm more nostalgic, because I have so many good memories of going to drive-ins. This is how old I am. I saw the original Star Wars at a drive-in the summer it came out.
There you go.
So to me, while it dates me, I still remember it so fondly. And I remember seeing Return of the Jedi in a theater with the sound. And even now, I saw Top Gun, the latest Top Gun, and just being in the theater with all the sound, you could watch it at home. It's not the same experience. So I hope it's not going to go away, because I love the art of film and I love film. But, so I hope there's always a place for it. But, to your point, it is much easier to sit home in my sweats and not pay, $8 for a Coke, or $10 for stale popcorn. It is easier to stay home and, in my sweats and eat what I want and how much, but there's still a part of me that, I think there's always going to be a place for theater. At least I hope so. I hope people never stop loving the experience. So.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's an experience, right? That's it's separate than sitting at in your living room and watching it. So I'm sure it still will be there. Just
I hope so. Yeah.
That is awesome. We're about to enter our Q&A session here in about 5 minutes. Kelvin, we do see the first question, so thank you so much. I want to remind everybody out there that if you do have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat section. We do see some of them coming in. We're going to get to them here in 1 second here. We got about 5 more minutes as we continue talking to Susan about what she's done here in her career. And Susan, obviously, we talked about those big networks. We talked about Fox and Lifetime. Yeah. Is there a difference working for a different network? Was there a certain way they did things, or a certain way that you approach it in your position when you're working for a different network or so? Does that happen for you at all?
A lot of the major studios will have almost the same rules, especially COVID protocol. That was pretty much the same, I noticed. And even safety. There's been some accidents, especially in the news, you've heard a lot of the accidents on sets. So a lot of the safety protocols are always the same. But networks, they pretty much, almost all of them do things almost the same way. It varies, like CBS, ABC, they'll have different, paperwork, how you fill out paperwork. Do you have to become an employee of them, or can I just work as a freelancer, that kind of thing. But it just varies. But a lot of them do follow the same protocols, I noticed. Some are easier than others. But yeah, I did notice that a lot of them kind of, do follow this. There's usually the same protocols, but can I show really quickly just how to do something on the cheap? And I went to, and I apologize. Did you have another question though? I don't want to.
I was going to go back to Dress for Success actually, because we're going to wrap this there for you. Go ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm sorry. I went to Dollar Tree and I forgot to mention this earlier, so forgive me. So that's why I hope I didn't cut you off, but I just realized I forgot to mention this earlier when we're talking about doing things on the cheap. So over the weekend, I went to Dollar Tree and I thought, if you're going into a job interview, regardless of where you're interviewing, here's just a couple of things I would recommend just keeping in your car. So I went to Dollar Tree on purpose just because, number one, I shopped there too, but I found these lint rollers. These you can just, lint roll clothes, and I'm sorry, it's a little blurry. I have the blur on. You lint roll over your clothes, get the lint dog hair off. Some tape for your blouse. It's just this is called Hollywood tape. It's just wardrobe tape. This keeps your collar down. So if you have a dress shirt on and your collar's wanky, you can just put a little piece of tape. You can rip this in half, whatever. If your blouse is gapping or your shirt's gapping, you can just put a little bit of tape in between. And then you want to make sure your teeth are clean, your nose is clean, you don't have the eye gunk in. This is kind of gross, you guys. I'm sorry, but this is what I do when I work with actors. So this is my job. It's not glamorous, but I have to be the one to do it. So you get these little toothpicks. They're called dental picks, and these I got at Dollar Tree too. They're $1, and they come with a little carrying case. And then I just get a little travel brush. So this one just folds. It folds flat into nothing, and you can put this in your car. It even has a little mirror in the handle. You can get that on Amazon. And I just put it in a Ziploc bag, and then I can keep it in my car. And that way, before you go in, if you have dogs or cats, just keep it in your car, and then you can just do a once over. Wipe your shoes off with a microfiber cloth. You can get at Dollar Tree, and you should be, it's those little details that I think will help you set yourself apart from, all the other applicants. It's part of that branding we were talking about. So I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier. So forgive me for, I hope I didn't overspeak over you, but I forgot to show the folks that, so.
Yeah, no, I was gonna round our conversation back up to that, because I know that is your main expertise here, right? In regards to getting people ready and so forth. And the dress for success part is huge.
Yeah.
I know that you encounter thousands of people, right?
Yeah, thousands. I would say yes. Feels like a billion now.
Yeah. You see a lot of things and how to improve that. So that's awesome too. Is there anything else you would give out there in regards to counsel to just attire men, women, whatever you encounter? What big thing do you have for them as a starter, to be able to dress for success?
Yes, thank you. So like I mentioned, just make sure that, I think I mentioned earlier, but if you wear a dress shirt, just make sure and if you tuck it in, then try to wear a belt if you can. And you can get the belts really, really, really inexpensively at a lot of the thrift stores. They have a ton of belts, I noticed. And another thing I will mention is things that you don't normally think about. So at least I don't think about these things until I'm going on an interview or something. I'm like, oh, shoot. It's your smell. Like, how do you smell? So if you wear a lot of heavy perfumes, a lot of heavy colognes, or say you made fish for lunch, you don't want to make fish for lunch and then go on the interview. So no one should know what you smoked, what you ate, or what your favorite heavy perfume is. A lot of times people just don't like that. And you never know how the interviewer is going to take that. And plus it might instigate some sort of I noticed I don't wear perfume as a makeup artist because I'm really close to people. Yeah. So if I wear perfume and I trigger a migraine in somebody, I'm not going to be on their Christmas card list probably.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that. And then another thing I would say really quickly, something that I was thinking about over the weekend, watch your car or your vehicle. So when you're going on an interview, and I'm not saying this is right, I don't agree with people being judgmental, but this is what and just when I worked in the corporate office, I honestly overheard the HR people that were doing interviews. I overheard them talking about the applicants that would come in, and I couldn't help it. I wasn't eavesdropping. It was just a small office. And so, but there was this one gal, I'll tell this story really quickly. There was a gal that came in. This was back in the late 90s, I think. She came in, she had really heavy goth makeup on. And when I didn't see her car, but I overheard the general manager talking about it after she left. He's like, oh my gosh, did you see her get a load of her car? It was covered in political statements. And she had handcuffs hanging from the rear view mirror and handcuffed earrings. And so, they were snickering about that and thought that was really unprofessional. But the car, and then I remember I went on a job and I just got off a movie, I think, but my car didn't have a bunch of bags in it, didn't have food bags in it, but it was just needed swept out and it needed washed. And I was in a hurry. I'm like, I'm just going on this job. I'll do it tomorrow. And don't you know, that was the day that when I went, the talent actually asked me for a ride to the next location because she didn't have a driver. And she was this national sportscaster. And I thought, sure. And then her and the sound guy got in my car and I just was so embarrassed. And I thought, I could clean my car a million times. No one rides in it. The one time I'm lazy and don't, know, and then I apologized. She's like, oh no, it's okay. It's a working car. But I just thought, lesson learned. Like, so now I wash my car and I even vacuum it out when I'm going, especially to a new client, you know, because you never know, they're going to walk you to your car just to be polite or just to see how you live, you know? So all of it's part of that branding, right? So yeah, now I wash my car.
Yeah. No, it's the little things count. The little things count.
So true. Yeah.
You got to be ready for everything. I mean, that's image wise for what you're doing is it's got to be key.
It's all part of that marketing we're talking about, all part of that personal brand, those little details, you know, and maybe they don't even notice. It's what they don't notice that makes the biggest impression, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if someone walks in with dirty shoes, dirty shoelaces, you know, they're going to notice that. But if you walk in with clean shoes, they may not make a comment about it, but it's going to register on some level. So it's going to make the difference.
That's awesome. That's good advice. I hope you guys are writing this down. Clean your car.
I feel like your aunt or your grandma. Like, listen to your auntie. It's advice my mom gave me when I was young. So
no, this is great. No, great. This is great. Great advice, great counsel as well, Susan. We do appreciate that. We want to get into our Q&A session here.
Please, sure.
Get our audience here involved. Let me get to my screen to make sure I got these questions correct. I don't know if it's Linda or John popping the questions in, but we are going to check as we get to the comment section.
Yeah, can you see them up there? Do you see them on the screen, Tony?
Yeah, I see them. Yeah, I see them now.
Okay, and I'll keep scrolling for you.
Thank you so much, Linda.
Sure.
So our first question here is from Kevin Teamer. He says, "Did you have a dedicated social media account outside of your personal accounts?"
That's all I have. So, but if I had both, I would keep them separate. Yeah. But I used to have personal Facebook and I would just let it mix in because it was just, you know, my friends from film. We would all post. And then I got rid of all that for a long time. And then now that I'm trying to start a secondary business of a consulting business, then that's all I have is just business. But yes, that's a great question. Thank you, Kevin. I would definitely keep them separate.
Yeah. And you know, even for the things that I do, I also have, you know, I have a business one for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Or one. And then I have my own personal one. So definitely want to keep them separate.
Keep them separate and maybe even consider keeping your personal one private. Not that there's anything weird on there. I'm just saying, like, you know, you want to keep maybe your personal one private if you want to. There's nothing wrong with that. And then just put your business one, you know, public.
Absolutely. We have another question popped in here. It says from Brian Kuminski. I hope I said the last name right. It says, what was the worst day of your career and how did you learn from that to turn it around?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I love that question. And again, I hate to keep repeating myself. I could think of probably at least 4 examples popped in my head as soon as I heard that question. But the one that really came to my mind was I worked with this lady. She was the head makeup artist. It was a film shot here in Cleveland. And it was just a bad film all the way around. I mean, the whole crew felt it. The subject matter was rough. It was just really rough shoot. But this lady, she was from, you know, LA, and nothing against people from LA, but she came here with a real chip on her shoulder. And she was just very unpleasant. And she was a very mean person. And you could tell she enjoyed being mean. But again, I always just tell myself, you know, I would come into work and I would just say, God, please, you know, help me, don't respond in kind. You know, I would be praying that on the way in. And then, and I would tell myself, you can do anything for 6 weeks. It's December. You need the money. This will be your Christmas, you know, this will be your, so, but she was really unpleasant and she would cuss at me. She would scream at me in front of the crew. She would misplace her items and then scream at me like I lost them. I mean, it was just really horrible. And I'm telling you, I would go home at night and I didn't even have tears. You know, I didn't even have tears to cry. I was just so drained because they were 18-hour days. And what was the second part of the question? How did I get through, or what did I learn? Was that
how did you manage to get through that?
Again, a lot of prayer and I would just say, you know what? Let her problems be her problems. And I really did just pray that I wouldn't just walk off, because that was the first film I ever really wanted to quit. And I'd never walked off a project before, never. As bad as it can get sometimes. And as people, you'll just meet all kinds of different people. You'll meet really sweet people and you'll meet really not so sweet people. But I really wanted to quit. And, but I just thought, nope, I'm not going to let her take my money. It's December in Cleveland and I'm not going to be working probably the rest of the winter until at least February. So I'm not letting her take my money. And I just really did. I just really relied on my faith and just that tenacity. Like, I'm not going to give in to her. You could tell she was trying to like make me quit, So yeah, that's what I learned. And I thought, and now I compare everything to that movie. So I won't say the name of the movie, but if I'm on a job that's really rough, I'll say, well, at least it's not blank, so that's what I've taken it. So I won.
There you go. There you go. Crazy experience for sure.
Right. It was crazy.
Raymond Ponce has a comment here. I believe this had to do with when you were talking about like what you're wearing and so forth.
Yeah.
Instead of, so overall, just good hygiene.
Yes. Good hygiene, good grooming. The stuff that you really want to pay attention to, like I said, the eye gunk that gets in there. My mom used to call it sleep. You get sleep in your eyes. It's just eye gunk. Make sure there's nothing hanging out of your nose. You'll hate yourself if you go to your car and think, oh my gosh, was that there the whole time? Make sure there's nothing in your teeth. You guys are, or if you're younger, you probably don't have to worry about it. But older guys, I know when I'm doing for film or something and an older actor comes in or someone middle-aged, it's the ear and nose hair, and even on younger people, you have to kind of watch that. So just good grooming and, make sure you're just clean and precious, like, it's really simple things like that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Go down the chat here real quick to see if I have any other questions here. Oh, we got another one. Popped in here. Brian says some people are not the best dressers. Do you dress? Do you dress rehearsals for new? Do you do dress rehearsals for new clients?
Not really in my industry, unless I'm working in wardrobe, which is rare. If you're working in wardrobe, like I have a friend that just does wardrobe, so she'll do, we call them fittings. But personally, for me, I'm more of a makeup artist, but over the years I've had to learn how to do wardrobe styling just because, like I said, I live in a commercial market. So usually the stuff that I work on now, they want hair, makeup, and wardrobe to do, you do all the three. So I had to learn this stuff. So it's just basic things. You don't have to be a quote good dresser, but just what looks clean, what looks matched. If you have a friend that's good at putting outfits together, but you really can't go wrong. Like if you're going on a job interview to say a corporate office, or if you're going for an interview, even in a media company or whatever, like I said, look on their website, see how they're dressing. My guess is it's business casual. That's just a button down or a polo shirt. Button down is just a collar with buttons, with or without a tie. You can get those. And I'll tell you, you get a khaki pair of pants or black. Black is a go-to. Almost everything matches black. Black with maybe a blue top or baby blue shirt, that's almost a uniform. You can get one of those, really easy to throw together. Get a belt that matches, a black belt, get black shoes, easy. You don't have to be, a fashion maven. Something simple like that. Mm-hmm. That's what I would suggest. So hopefully that answered your question. Yeah. But don't sweat. Don't get worked up about it. Just, what looks good, and you'll know.
Awesome. We have another question here from Derek De Leon. He says, at what point did you capitalize on your environment if it was a negative one?
Yeah, well, I think the one I was sharing earlier, but there was another one too that comes to mind. I worked with an actor who was very disagreeable, and not just with me, just like the lady I was telling you about. She was the head makeup artist, but the actor, there was one actor I can think of in particular. He was extremely unpleasant. And again, I think he enjoyed being unpleasant, and it wasn't just to me; it was to the rest of the cast. It was the rest of the crew, and I think how I capitalized on it was at least for me, towards the end when he really went over the top one day, and I don't have the time to go into the whole story, but he went ballistic on folks, and finally I stood up and I did say something to the producers, because he was really out of control and almost violently out of control. And so I stood up for myself, and hopefully the rest of the crew and cast. I didn't make a scene, but I went to the producers, and I'd never done that before. And, I was professional about it, but I was upset, but I tried to keep it together. But I think that I capitalized on it, and that's a great way to word it, because I didn't really think of it in that frame. It did help me. I feel like I grew up a little bit, because I was a department head, and not that when I walked around like, oh, I'm the boss, but I just thought, you know what, I feel like I need to say something, because no one else is. This guy he was terrible, and he had everyone afraid. So I feel like that's how I capitalized on it. It gave me a little confidence to grow up a little bit, and take some authority.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Raymond Ponce, I don't know if it's kind of tied into the next question, but it says, was there any moment where you accidentally had a setback on set? And if so, how did you manage that?
I had a lot of setbacks over the years, a lot. And that's just probably too numerous to mention. There's been so many. Oh my gosh.
You change all the time. I'm sure.
Name it. It's happened to me. And anyone anyone in film will tell you that. I mean, even down to where I've had to, watch 5 or 6 different actors on set. And then I reach for their bag, because I had to separate each person's bag. I would reach for the bag and it wouldn't be there. And I would think, what? Because I was always so prepared, I thought, so, or I would reach for, like, I had to make a scar on somebody, and the trailer was 2 miles away, and I reached for the stuff to make the scar, and I was missing one component of it. And I thought, oh no. So you kind of just have to pivot, like I said, and then you really have to, use as all these things come together. Like, you can't panic, even though you want to, you just have to do the best with what you've got. But I will say this, it's taught me to be very diligent and always have a backup plan. So in my kit, I would always carry like just a general palette of something. So if I did forget something, or something came up that they needed, I would have it. So I hope that answered that question. But yeah, it did make me more prepared, probably over prepared, because I do have a lot that I carry around now.
Well, Susan, I took some notes. I'm going to go buy me a pair of black pants. I'm going to go give me
buy your black pants. I know I need a new pair myself.
I'm going to redo this again. I'm going to try this again. I'm going to get this in order. I'm going to make sure, groom myself a little bit.
You're going to check your nose, check your ear hair now. Yep. Yes.
I think I'm going to be ready for my second term here. We have one final question here that popped in from Outlaw Flyer 78. They're asking, have you ever had a client that's like a vegan towards makeup, won't wear makeup if it's made up of certain chemicals?
Yes, many times I've had that. And in that case, if I have the opportunity, and thank you for the question, that's such a great question. All these are such great questions. So thank you, everybody. But yes, I have had that. And if I know that I'm going to be on a shoot, and like I said, now I do a lot of commercials, so I don't really do a lot of film anymore, but so I have the opportunity more now, but even in film I did too. So I would ask the actor. I would always have a pre-production meeting with the actor, and they would tell me what they can and can't wear. And then I would make sure I had that for them. But now it's a little harder because I don't have direct access usually to the talent, usually. And so I'll say to the producer or whoever is could you ask them if they have allergies? Or if they say, hey, like I just had this happen over the winter time. Or it was last fall, where this gal, she told the producer, hey, I can't wear this, or this. I can't have talc. I can't have this. I can't have that. So I just said, hey, can you just have her bring her own stuff? And then, or her own brushes, and it ended up working out just fine. I let her, I did the best I could, because, you can't, even if it says vegan, you can't guarantee it to somebody that it's actually vegan. So in that case, I would just have the client bring their own things and then just use them.
That's awesome. I think I had another question. There we go. I had another one here. Jose Alicia just wrote us and writes, how about the white hair on the beard?
White hair on the beard?
White hair on beard. How about that? Is that acceptable? I'm assuming he's asking, or?
I think so. I think it's perfectly fine. I think, if you think that, it's a good question, but my initial reaction is I think it's perfectly fine. But one of the points that I forgot to mention earlier, if you want to do a personal assessment of yourself and kind of pull back and kind of look at what you can tweak. If you're going for a job where I have a niece that looks very young. She's 32, but she looks like she's a teenager. She's starting to hate that, because I always teased her. I'm like, you'll love that when you're, but now she's finding that, she's starting to be a teacher. And so she looks more like a student. So she's trying to think of ways, how can I look older? So with her, it'd be a haircut, but if you wanted to look younger for a position, personally, me speaking, I would not change that if it were me. But if you feel like you want to, if you think they're looking for someone younger for the position, I hope that's not the case, because it shouldn't matter. But you could always fill that in. And an easy trick to fill in white in a beard, if you have dark hair. So if you have dark hair, you can just get a little tube of mascara. Or do you guys have Sally Beauty Supply? Where you live, we have Sally, I think, as a national company. But you can go to a beauty supply store and or you can get on Amazon. It's just a hair filler or hair mascara. It's for roots. You can do your roots with it. You can also use that on your beard if you want to fill that in. So I've done that for film too. I've worked with a lot of actors that don't want their white hair to show on film because it fades them out. So that's what I'll do. And in a pinch, I'll just use mascara if they have dark hair. But other than that, I just have a little kit I bought. We have what's called Sally's Beauty Supply here. It's a beauty supply shop. I just go in there and get their little root fillers. It's really for hair root, and it just works great. It's just it comes with a little mascara wand. You just do this and it'll fill it right in.
Awesome. We do have time for one last question here. Smokey the Bear is writing, do dreads play a role in getting jobs? Dreads.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think they're perfectly fine. And I think, if that's the way you wear your hair, I don't think it should play a role. No, I don't think that. I don't think that at all. It's really not the hairstyle that I think would sway somebody one way or the other. I think it's more, like I said, it's overall appearance, overall how you carry yourself. Are your clothes clean? Are your, they're covered in dog hair, that kind of thing. But I don't think dreads should matter. No, I don't think so.
Linda, I do see a couple more questions. It's up to you. I know you're running the.
Sure, no, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine.
There's just a couple, but it's Susan, just a quick question. I did say they could connect with you on LinkedIn. With any questions, is that a good place for
that's great. Sure, yeah. Yeah, LinkedIn is fine. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I feel like I'm at, the store where I say to everybody, these are the final questions, everybody behind you. You'll have to, join with a question on LinkedIn, but we'll do the couple and then I'll pop in and we'll say our goodbye.
LinkedIn and my website, I forgot, I actually have a newer website, so I forgot about it, but you can connect there too. Just under my website, it's everydaybeautycafe.com. And just go to contact, and I have email set up on it. I just remembered that when you said that. So yeah, either one. Yeah, whatever's convenient for you.
Thank you. Okay, Tony, I'll let you grab these couple of questions and then we'll come to an end.
Okay, cool. We'll continue on here. We have a couple more questions. Let me pop these over for myself here. Sorry about that. There we go. All right, Raymond Ponce does right. Final question from him. He says, when on set, what are some of the things that you should expect going in that isn't really talked about, or if any?
Yes, that's a great question. There's a lot of things. I'll keep it short. One of the things that you should expect going in, regardless of your role, whether you're crew or background actor, is long days. It's very long days and it's not glamorous. So there's going to be a lot of sitting around. And you've heard the term hurry up and wait. That's exactly right. So you get there at 7 a.m. and you think, oh, we'll be done by 4. No, you won't. Your minimum is going to be 12 hours.
12 hours,
so, yeah.
I've heard that a lot. That a lot.
And there's a lot of waiting in between. So it's pretty boring. So
you got that, Raymond? 12 hours.
Long hours. And lots of weather too. So bring a rain jacket and layers.
There you go. I think we have, I think that's all the questions that have popped in the chat. Susan, it's been a straight honor to speak to you. Most definitely. I know somebody that has your role, and I've heard stories about what it involves, and kudos to you and props to you for everything you deal with. But again, from your conversation and from everything you said, you look like it sounds like you love what you do. And you sound like a great asset to whoever's working with you. So
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you both. Thank you everyone for joining. And thank you, Linda. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for the great questions and being so gracious. It's my first podcast, so thank you.
We're so happy that you joined us. Thank you to everybody who stayed along the full hour. It was really a wonderful hour filled with great information. Susan, you certainly are a pro, and we pride ourselves on learning from a pro to be a pro. So Tony, beautiful job too. We look forward to keeping in touch and joining you on your website so that we can get even more insight. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Good night. Thank you again.
Good night.
Good night.